So this is the French American Friendship Contest that is supported by the French Consulate here in Boston, the Villa Albertine, in the Richard Lounsbury Foundation. Um, and yeah, so basically this today, it's going to be very simple. I'm going to go over the big lines of the initiative. Uh, Most of what I'm going to be talking about is already in the rule book. If you do not have the rule book, please let me know, and I will make sure to send it to you. You can drop your email in the conversation, and I will make sure to send it to you. And then afterwards, I'll open the floor for any question, any logistical questions. I'm sure uh, these initiatives have they have a lot of different aspects and the logistics that teachers need to take in consideration. So I will obviously be here to answer any questions that you might have. Before we start, I did want to ask if any of you felt comfortable leaving your cameras on, because I'm going to keep this recording. I'm going to record this talk, and then we'll make it available uh, to the different teachers that might want to use it in future for future reference. So we'll put it in the on the website of the French and American Friendship Contest that will be launched in a couple of weeks. If you do not feel comfortable with that, you can obviously keep your camera down, but I will very much appreciate if you don't mind keeping it on. All right. So first, who can participate to this initiative? All high school students that are learning French, so that's between grade 9 all the way to 12, from public or private schools in Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Vermont, can participate to this initiatives. The goal and what's the final outcome is that three groups out of all the groups that will have participated in the contest, three groups of students will go on a trip to France. It is important to note that they do not need to be in the same grade to participate. They do not need to have the same level of French, or the same proficiency in French. We want to make sure this is an inclusive opportunity for all, and so any learners of French can participate in this initiative. Um, so how to make a selection? Oh, there should be. I don't know. Can you see? Why is there something missing here? Okay, I'll just share this because I don't know why it's not pulling up well in the presentation mode. Um, so the first step, the first phase in the selection process is internal to each school. So step one is the submission of project presentation notes. So those are really briefs, where the way we visualized it, but also, this is also part of your reflection, and it can take other many shapes. But I was thinking the way it would best function would be a brief of 1 page that each group that would wish to produce a project could submit to you to kind of explain what they're thinking through and how this kind of falls into the context of the Franco-American friendship. So may it be a relation to D-Day, or World War II, World War I. It could also be in relation to Lafayette, but also it can be anything that falls in between. And beyond that, it's important to have in mind that we are in New England, and there is a very specific and very particular relation that we have to France. Many students, many of our families here um, can trace back their ancestry to France. And so this could also be an opportunity for many of our students to kind of look back into their own family tree and kind of present maybe their own heritage, and that sits in their own relation to the Franco-American bond. Um, so basically, yeah, those briefs are written, submitted to you, and then from there you choose three of those briefs. I mean, maybe there's not that many students that will want to participate, but maybe they are. Based on that, you select three, and those three will be produced, and then out of the three, the school selects one that will be representing your school for the contest. So that's phase one. For phase two, this is the part where me and the cultural services will be working. We'll be receiving all of the different um, projects that will have been presented for each school, and we will select 15 projects for them to go into the final selection. Third phase, this will be a presentation of all 15 of these projects to a group of curators, historians, and artists as well, that will judge the quality of each of those 15, and they will select 3 that will be ultimately the winners of our contest. So that will be at the Residence of France, and we will we'll go over and communicate with the projects that have been selected. But I think we will think through how we can bring and involve each student, because the goal is also for them to pitch their idea to the jury, and to explain in French, ideally, what their project is and how they see and contextualize it within the French and American friendship. So a little bit of a timeline for this contest. The registration for participating for each school to state that they want to participate, we planned it for the 8th of December. We kept it very early because we wanted to kind of get a sense of how many schools would want to participate. This is a flexible date, okay? Like, if you want to submit the form a little bit later, it's totally okay. I think the goal for us right now, what we are thinking through, and I will be announcing it through email, I think tomorrow, will be that we'll leave all the way up to the end of the month. So really up to the beginning of 2024, for students to choose, well, for schools to tell us whether or not they want to participate. But basically, the form is very simple. It's just, we want a person of reference at the school. So basically, it would be a teacher. So their information to that teacher, the location of the school, and basically stating that there's a box. The last question is just stating, we agree to participate in engage in that selection process. But basically after that, so that's the first box really is exposing all of the timeline for phase 1. Basically, for that selection, for the briefs, for the production of the 3, for the selection of the 1, all of that is happening from, let's say, around now all the way to March 30th. You have all the way up to March 30th to give us your final selection of a project. And then afterwards, on our end, we at the consulate will work on that selection of those 15 from the 1st to the 30th of April. And then the goal would be that we have the grand finale and the announcement on May 8th. For then a travel to France on June 1st to 7th, knowing that the 6th is the anniversary of the D-Day with the celebrations in Normandy. So this is really all I wanted to talk about in this presentation. I can come back to the presentation if there's any questions, but I do want to open the floor and leave most of this time for you to ask because I'm sure you have particular questions in mind. One thing that I would want to highlight to you, and I think it's an important aspect, when we're looking at the timeline of the contest, the goal for us is, once we know which ones are the 15 finalists, we will email you. We will get back to you on the fact that they are part of the 15, and it would be very smart to make sure that all students at that point, if they don't, go and renew their passports. Some of them might not have a passport that's up to date. So to leave enough time for them to be able to leave on June 1st to 7th, not knowing, because I think May 8th is going to be too short to get that passport. But if they could renew their passports, if they're part of the 15 finalists, that would be ideal in the eventuality that they would be the winning groups. So with that said, I'm opening the floor to any questions you might have.
So
Yes.
my question is, our school does not offer all the levels of French, unfortunately. We offer Spanish all the way from level 1 to AP, but not in French. And you are saying that the project should be primarily in French, correct?
Uh, okay, no, let me clarify that. The project, once again, is an art project. So, you know, it could be a sculpture. So the presence of French might not really be there in language. I think there's a lot of avenues for students to explore this relation without really having to always refer to the French language. The goal is that it's a cultural and historical exploration. So let's say the students want to work on visual arts. They might not need to use French within. What I was talking about though is for the presentation to the jury, like we will ask them to have a little spiel about, like, a 1 minute spiel about explaining their project and contextualizing it for the jury. And ideally that presentation would be prepared in French. So maybe they can have it written, you know, they can be writing, they can be reading it. We will also have some jury that aren't speaking French. So there will always be a need to have an English version of it. But the goal is to, like, to push them to do a little bit more French in that sense. But really, the project itself doesn't need to have much French. But if they're thinking about, working on a film, however, maybe it would be good to, like, have French be part of that. So that's why we also left it really open on the arts, is because we want to make sure that students can kind of find the best way to show their skills in arts, but also to not be penalized by not having the right French skills. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, so is the goal for them to do something more artistic than like academic, like in the sense of writing project? Is that the idea?
So once again, so the brief, if there's a lot of students that are interested in participating, a lot of groups that are manifesting themselves to you, they should put together a brief. That to you is your choice. You can ask them to do that in French, you can ask them to do that in English. And then afterwards, the piece, I mean, if it's a writing, if they decide to produce, or the project is something in writing, then maybe it's going to be in French. But if they're working on a sculpture, if they're working on visual art, there might not be any French word used within that production.
Question about the first phase. So by March 30th, do
Yeah.
you need, for example, if they decide to do a sculpture, like you said, do you need just a brief explanation of what their project is going to be? Do you need like a detailed plan? What does that first submission looks like?
Okay, so the first time we need you to get back to us is in the coming weeks on whether or not you want your school to participate.
That's done.
Okay, right. So once that's done, all you need to do is submit the finished project. Oh, my light just went off. You need to submit the final project by the 30th of March.
So on the final project, if it is a sculpture, do you need just a picture of it? If we decide
So
to
that's a great question. Yes, the first step, if it's a sculpture, if it's something that cannot be moved very easily, pictures, videos are appropriate. And then if they're part of the 15, we will think of a way to bring that work to the jury, to the residents.
And then I have one final question. So if, for example, if my students decide to write a story, but they decide that a fourth student is a good drawer and he's going to do the illustrations, is that admissible, or no, the project has to be entirely completed from A to Z from those 3 students?
Well, so I mean, they can bring in somebody else, but that person won't go to France. That's the thing, because we have basically for the trip, it's an all-inclusive trip. They're gonna go to Paris, they're gonna go to Normandy, they're gonna be taken with it. There's gonna be a bus that's gonna be literally taking them everywhere they go. And basically there's 3 groups of 3 students accompanied by one teacher per group. So there's going to be 3 teachers going with them. Ideally, the teacher who helped with the projects and the selection process. That's also how we want to thank y'all for participating in all this. Is by making sure that you get to also be a part of that adventure. But yeah, I mean, technically, they could ask somebody else if they're really interested and willing to participate, but they might not be able to go to France afterwards. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Our seniors would be graduating before the trip to France. Would that make them ineligible to go on this, to be participants in this, or would that be fine because they'll be students throughout the school year?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it wouldn't make them ineligible at all. It's completely okay for them to be in that situation as long as they're aware of it, and that they can still go to France and don't plan to go to Hawaii or something in the meantime. But yeah, no, absolutely.
And my second question, is this a contest only available to United States citizens, or is it any student enrolled in a French class who is a high school student?
It needs to be a high school student from any grade 9 to 10, 12 from a public or private school in Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Vermont. Those are the states that I work in. This is an initiative that we are carrying out from the French consulate, that we are the initiative of. It's not the embassy. We fully started this from A to Z. So it's for the schools and for the students in our circumscription.
Okay, so if I have a student who is not a U.S. citizen who is going to a public school in Massachusetts and learning French, is that okay?
That's a good question. Okay, yeah, that is okay. But then there's the question of the visa. So then in this case, what we would need is probably to know that when you submit the project, there might be a need to do it early on. So in the eventuality that happens, please reach out to me the earliest possible, so then we can adapt. And like as soon as you know your project is selected, I'd love to know if whether or not there's a student that has that particular situation. That way we can figure out the visa situation as fast as possible.
So just to be sure I have well understood, is 3 students are going to go to France?
Total 9 students, 3 from your school. If you, okay. 3 if if your school is selected, but 9 student total will go to France.
Okay, so 3 per school, 3 per winning school.
Yeah, so one group, 3 different groups of 3.
Okay.
I'm trying to think like a student, honestly. I'm trying to ask myself, if I present this to my students, I teach it at Neshoba High School in Bolton, and I'm the only French teacher, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I just would love to present it to the students. I'm trying to ask myself, what would my students immediately ask? And I have a feeling they're going to ask me for a model or more details, because I love this because it's very broad, but I have students who don't think very broadly. They'd like to know a little, do you know what I mean? I'm trying to put myself in their spot. What would a 15-year-old ask me?
What we are going to launch very soon is the website for the entire contest, and part of the website is going to be a page dedicated to institutional resources. And so we are working with different institutional partners in New England. May it be museums, may it be archives, may it be associations that work directly on French and American friendship. We're going to have different resources present on that page that will introduce the institution, highlight a few resources that might be key for them, and then also open their entire collection of these institutions for them to review. So like this is also kind of the work of research. They're all high schoolers. They're learning how to do essays, how to explore, do research for college. So this page is going to be kind of a great way for them to have a centralized resources that they can utilize to kind of contextualize and understand how they can produce this and make this. So there's going to be, we're working with the MFA on this. We're working with the Franco-American archives at Lewiston in Maine. We're working with the Lafayette Trail on this as well. We're making a few webinars that are recorded that will be available for them to review as well. So we're kind of creating this database of resources that they can use to produce and think through what they might want to be doing. All of this is going to be up by mid-December.
Have you done this before? I know that's only an 80th. I mean, I can't, kind of a dumb question because there's only
No,
so
this is
many.
not a dumb question.
Do you like these? Has the contest happened before for other big events?
So no, it's the first time we're doing this in the US. This is inspired though by an initiative that happens every year, that happens in France, and it's a contest around La Libération. Different students write, and it's more of a writing exercise than anything else, around like La Résistance, around all of that contribution. And so we inspired ourselves from what they did and wanted to really, use this year of 2024, because it's this really cool intersection of two pillars of the Franco-American friendship, which are, the very last victory lap of Lafayette across the United States, that happened in 1824, and it's also the 80th anniversary of the D-Day. So we wanted to utilize this occasion, and we've been working on this project for a little while now. But yeah, no, it's truly I don't know if we'll do it again, but maybe.
No, that's awesome. Thank you. That's good info right there.
But thank you all for participating. Thank you for being present. Thank you for being willing to engage in such a contest. We're really excited at this prospect. We know how much too those kind of initiatives can play a role in a student's desire to learn a language or be involved in these kind of programs. I know how much exchange programs and trips are appealing to students. So we really wanted to leverage that with this. Thank you all so much for your time, and looking forward to seeing your projects, and yeah, hopefully you'll make it out to France.